Welcome back from the commercial break. We continue the discussion titled the National Debt Management and Regaining Economic Independency. And I appreciate our dear guests once again to be with us. Honorable Dennis Onekalita Mere, the MP pt2 municipality, and also together with us retired Major Wiki Paul, the Director External Affairs NRM, and a lawyer by profession. We were looking at this discussion and backed by also the reports that are with us here. And one of it was generated by on 9th July 2022, which was a Ugandan Economic Update 19th edition, and it was entitled Fiscal Sustainability Through Deeper Reforms to Public Investment Management. To the viewers, for purpose of presenting to you a well-researched information, it is believed that real gross domestic product grew by 4.3% in the first half of 2022, supported by a strong and speedy recovery of the service sector upon the opening of the leisure and entertainment industry, accommodation and food services, as well as sustainable information communication sector. The report projects a 5.1% growth rate in 2022, 0.5% point below December 2021 forecast, increasing to about 6% in the financial year 2024. That's a projection. And we come back to where you had reached, looking at a number of the policies, the macro, the fiscal policies, and compared to this report, it takes us back to look at whether our management of debt and the fiscal policies for economic sustainability to where we are, whether it is viable. You are still giving us a package. You're welcome once again, Honorable Dennis.
Yeah, thank you. I was analyzing the fiscal policies. And because when you look at how can Uganda be effective in managing the economy. Dr. Joseph and the viewers, there are a lot of scenarios that depicts the effective management of our economy. I would say there is lack of goodwill, maybe, in the managers of this country, particularly the head of state. And of course, it trickle down to the sectors, even at legislation, the executives, legislation. To some extent, I would say, there is lack of goodwill. Otherwise, we would, by now, be wiser, looking at the trend that our debt level is taking, which is rising year after year. For the last 3 financial years, our debt level has been increasing, climbing up, in a very terrific speed. Now, when you look at resourced management, if we borrow money, how do you utilize the money we borrow? It's another big issue. I am not afraid to tell you and the viewers that in the country we have some money that has been borrowed but never been utilized.
Yeah, that report.
Which is very unfortunate. Then you will ask yourself, do you really love the country if you could borrow money, then leave the money you have borrowed redundant, and yet that particular money you have borrowed is accruing interest? Is accruing interest. It's very unfortunate. Now, again, if you borrow money, then that money is wasted. It's not channeled to the right direction of businesses and projects that would help raise the economy.
There's something good I would like to take it up together. The borrowing, most of the approval is brought before Parliament. During the 10th Parliament, when Minister Honorable Bahati David was the minister, could every most of either with a month, whether I cannot count the times, but I'm aware that there are some who had begun to say that he's a minister in church for borrowing. I'm aware, and I think you're also aware. It's commonly shared information. So the process to approve these debts, I would have thought, as you're handling, the way systematically you're discussing, should be following a criteria that we meet this and this. This is for this project. We are going to do this money by this time. It is being targeted to do this by this time. And to the dear viewers, what I recall, much of that's at a micro level. If a bank gives you a loan, they must first question you, what are you going to do? Do you have the startup capital so that we give you a top-up, and so forth? Kindly continue, take it up together.
There has been a lot of debt traps that has been laid before this country on many occasions. You see, when an IMF comes on board and tells you there is money here, you can borrow and use it for road construction, and the country runs in for it. Those I call them debt traps. Indeed, like you have said, in many instances, people has referred to the minister, like David Bahati, as minister for borrowing.
And it's not the Minister of Finance.
It's not there now.
Yes.
Because every time you would actually get up to speak, you will sense that there is need for another money. you know he's coming to us to request for another.
And he presents
money.
his case very well and you approve.
Systematically. And of course, you know why at time it gets approved. Because of the issues of the high has it. For you, the opposition, even you say, no, the high has it. The majority NRM, the high has it. And partly at time because you realize the speaker is in the hand, in the sight of the ruling government.
Yes, please.
But the bottom line is, coming back to our discussion, I want to say that we as a country can manage our economy with very minimum debt ratio. That is if we can accept to be custodians of our country. That is if we can accept to love our country and to play ownership of what comes in our country and to effect the utilization ability correctly to put the budget where it's supposed to belong. Dr. Joseph, we in this country, locally, we have businesses, we have investments, we have companies that can raise a lot of revenues, taxation locally in Uganda. That would actually reduce the level of debts, the level of borrowing. But the funny thing that we have in Uganda is that Uganda seemingly is the only country that invests money in investors. This is a country that receives investors from out. The so-called investors comes, they are given land to carry out their investment. And the land they are given, it is the same land that some of them mortgage out to banks in Uganda to get capital to start investing in our country. So the entire things that they carry out for their investment is all originated from the country, and we watch. I'm saying with experience, with example, I would even outline them to some of those companies, investors. Now, here comes a scenario also, the same pseudo investor will fail to manage the investment and comes back wanting to borrow more money so that to wake up the business. For example, Rocco. Let me mention that one example. Rocco has a lot of debts records, a lot of court records, which they have failed to manage. And Rocco came to Parliament asking for money to revive them. We rejected, and the high has it, gave them the money. The second example is a Tiak Sugar with us there in Acholi. We gave them money. Part of the investment that they put there, the Anima company, part of the investment was actually government grant given to them. They failed to manage it. Right now, as we talk, the people of Acholi are very angry with them, the Tiak Sugar company, because the workers are not paid. And yet part of the reason why the government would support such investments is to create job opportunity in the country, is to help uplift the economy. Now put that aside. Some of the debts, the borrowing of resources from China, comes with condition attached to it. That we give you money, but we need a Chinese investor, a Chinese constructor to come and construct your roads. We have engineers in this. Well done.
Do they have the same capacity like the Chinese do?
Why not in construction? Why not if the money is there?
Okay.
They can get the contract and do that.
Okay.
Now, of course, our local content policies to be locally Uganda. But still that one even rarely published, rarely actually worked on. Most of these foreign companies that comes to do work here repatriate back the money. We borrow from them and they take back the money. The bottom line here, if the country really want to protect the economy, if Uganda want to protect the economy, there are a few things that we need to do. One, we need to avoid issues of giving tax holidays.
Long-term tax holidays? Or purely no tax holidays?
We can limit like to 1 or 2 years. When an investor comes to your country, we assume that the investor has studied the geographical location of that country, has studied the business perspective of that country, and understand how his or her business will strive in the country. Now here we have a lot of money being wasted in tax holidays given to these people. For example, I would give you an example of Bitco. Bitco was given 20 years of tax holidays. Now this is a Bitco that produced White Star Soap. The White Star Soap material for producing White Star soap, it's got one of the raw material is palm oil. And Bitco entered the contract with the government to produce, to give out growers in Kanangala, in Kasese, these other places, to grow palm tree. Then the palm oil is only given to Bitco, sold to only Bitco. So they have the privilege, which the local shop makers, the local investors do not have.
Yes.
And yet, again, you realize that their product is more expensive in the market. Now, how will the country benefit?
Conclude on that, then we go to Major.
Basically, if we want to manage our level of debts, we need to first of all look at all the possible ways of raising local taxation from the country, avoiding wasteful expenditures, and then channeling our budget on the right projects that can benefit the country. And also we need to work on corruption. There are a clan of people who has clicked together to rob this country to death. They have formed an association whereby you are protected. Justice John Bosco made a ruling sometimes back. I like referring to him. When he was ruling against a certain engineer, he made it clear that he is tired of prosecuting small fish when the crocodile are there swimming in water. So if we can find a way of making corruption a very expensive venture to go in,
then you can manage this.
We will manage the economy, we manage the debts. Because most of the finances, the money that goes into any activities in this country, 30% or 20% does not do its own work. It is corrupted.
30%, you become even generous, I think, in our time.
Exactly, more than that.
Thank you, Honorable. I would like to hear from
Yes, I just want, on a follow-up to what Honorable has said, maybe the aspects that I agree with is in the area... 5 minutes, take us on, sir. In the area of, say, whether or not we have the competency to do work here. I think it's even engraved in the law that a Chinese company can only bring an expatriate when such an expatriate is not in Uganda. And there's a procedure for their nationals who come to be verified. First of all, the positions that they have are taken, I think, to Investment Authority, to say you want a civil engineer, don't we have it here? So if those procedures are followed, I think we would cure ourselves from the aspect of saying you bring Chinese. For example, this nice road in Golf Club, that traffic light junction, that road was constructed by my sister's son. He's an engineer, Uganda.
As a company or just employee?
No, he was working in the Chinese company, but he was the engineer. He was working in the Chinese company, but he's the engineer. This boy went to Kisubi, went to Makere, and he's an engineer.
One second. In that, which is a good discussion we're having, I'm also a proponent of the same in a patriotic spirit. While we have our sons and daughters of this land that have gone to Chambogo University, Makere University, and all other institutions that are awarding degree in engineering, why can't the government, the NRM government as of now, decide to say, let's empower our local citizens who are engineers? They do give them also an advance, either, loan. They only get them to come up with the company. They give them all that it takes. Then maybe as they work, they pay back the government, but they will build their own capacity, other than always building the capacity of the Chinese.
Well, that is your proposal. It is on the table. You want me to take it?
I will take it.
I'll take it. That's your proposal.
Yes.
But let me go back to this Chinese thing. You see, why the Chinese would take this advantage is because, first of all, you are borrowing. And borrowing is a contract between two equal parties. So the borrower has his terms. He drafts his contract of borrowing. You, the one borrowing, you read it, and you say whether agree with it or not. Normally, it is a negotiated settlement. So if he feels it is a way to secure his money, be it. If you don't want, you let the money go. So a contract for a loan is a negotiated settlement between two parties. And that is why the government of Uganda has negotiated to the effect that expatriates that we have in Uganda, please, we shall provide it. So there's a serious vetting system for Chinese who come here. Ordinarily, under the law, they're supposed to come, only those who are not provided, who are not here. Like high-tech persons, high technology that is only maybe still used in China or something like that. But there's a vetting procedures. So, but why we have the Chinese is that they have the money, and you agreed. It is a negotiated agreement. You can take it or leave it. But that is why the terms of the agreement has modifications like expatriates that we have, we provide. And that's why my sister's son built that road near Golf. So that is as far as that. But, Doctor, I feel like we have not talked much about the economic independence.
You can go for that, it's okay, sir.
We need to make our viewers know clearly the aspect of economic independence. You call it regaining, but let's talk of economic independence per se. Because when we appreciate it is when we have either the cry, the demand for it. You see, when you borrow money, even at household level, there's a kind of linkage that ties you to the owner of the money. In my own experience, I borrowed money to my friends. Immediately you borrow, your relationship changes. In fact, they said the best way to cut your friendship is to borrow your friend money. If he wants 1 million, you rather give 200, say take for free. Because even if you were calling him ordinarily to go for pork in one day, immediately he borrows your money. When you ring, he says, oh my God, he's asking for them. Even if you are not asking for the money. So debt changes relationship, even in countries. That is why it comes with conditions. For example, conditions like liberalization of the economy. We had to liberalize the economy here to the extent that some people feel there are basic elements that should not be done, like Uganda Commercial Bank, like electricity, like water, although water has not yet been. So, but these are conditions that liberalize. You see the effect of, and that is to explain the effect of loss of economic independence. You can't do that now when you borrow. You have things like very soon, or even silently, conditions are now coming like sexual freedom. And some people argue this is against the African traditions. For us, we don't want homosexuality. But you may,
if you don't,
or even now silently, it's being put. silently is being put. Now, political liberalization. Some of us felt that a movement, I still feel a movement political system is better than a multi-party. But because we are borrowing, we want to. With all due respect to Honorable, when we had a movement political system, you could send some ministers. Now you can't. Even if an NRM minister walks naked from City Square to Parliament, we shall say it is opposition who bewitched him. We shall protect him. But under a movement political system, we were all the same. You do a wrong, we go for you as a wrongdoer. Some of us supported movement political system. We thought it was better. But our borrowing said, go multi-party. And here we are. Try to censure us, you'll see. In the past, we would do it. The other thing is, the other thing, of course, there are things that it's difficult to do, you try to do at expense. For example, we would appropriate money like it is being done now, give to Electoral Commission and give to political parties in a proportional sharing. But the donors will say, don't touch our money on that, generate your income. So I just want our viewers to know that the economic independence vis-a-vis borrowing is a reality. If you borrow money, you are not free. Even on personal levels, if you borrow me your money and you ring me, even if you are calling me for your child's birthday party, I'll say, this one is again about the money. So the relationship is strained. The more effect that I want our viewers to understand, the effect of borrowing vis-a-vis economic independence, it ruins a country. It gives challenges. It ties your hands. So all effort should be done to free ourselves from borrowing.
We appreciate for your patriotic, submissions that indeed are aligned to make Uganda better than where we are. And stay tuned, our dear viewers and listeners. All of these are views that we are sharing objectively for the purpose of looking at where we can do best and make Uganda a better country to live in. Stay tuned on Smart 24 TV as we see you in the next session.